So the collegiate era of Bill Belichick begins on Monday when he has his first game as the head coach of the University of North Carolina when they take on TCU. A lot of people are wondering how Bill will fare, in this new NIL situation that we find ourselves in college athletics and specifically college football, because that makes the most money of anything else out there. How's he going to do? How's he going to relate to the players? And the whole thing with him and Mike Lombardi there, they're going to run it like they'd run an NFL team. And all that is fascinating, and we'll see what happens. But that's really the smaller window and the smaller issue. The bigger issue is, do we really believe that Bill's going to be at Chapel Hill long time? When he was hired, he talked about this is where his dad coached and it's where Billy came into the world, and it means a lot to him to come back and sort of be there where his father got his coaching sort of footprints in. And he had this great story that he can't confirm or deny, but he was told that little Billy's first words will beat Duke. And that's a great story. And if it's even remotely true, it's awesome. And if it's not remotely true, it's still a great story, and you're feeding to your base. Here's what I would suggest to you. Don't buy any of it. I have no idea how long Bill Belichick is going to be the head coach at North Carolina. But here's what I do know. When his agent was hammering out the contract, University of North Carolina wanted to make sure there was a $10 million buyout should he leave before the contract ends. Now, that's a pretty steep number. Nobody wants to give away $10 million. But there was a caveat in that contract that a lot of people didn't really understand or focus on. That $10 million buyout, as of June 1st of this year, went from $10 million to $1 million, meaning Bill could walk away from the contract making him the head coach of the University of North Carolina for the paltry sum of $1 million. Well, why is that significant? Two reasons. Number one, it was Bill's agent that made sure that clause and that lessening of the buyout was in his contract. Why would your agent want to make sure that was in the contract unless you wanted it in the contract? That's not something you just make up. Hey, I got a crazy idea. Why don't we see if the number goes from 10 million to 1 million on this random date before he even begins his coaching career on the sidelines? That was put in for a very specific reason, and I believe this is the very specific reason. Bill Belichick is still within shouting distance of Don Shula's record for the most wins in the history of the NFL as a head coach. He's very, very close. And when the official Spygate scenario wrapped up in 2007, where Bill had to pay a $500,000 fine and the Patriots had to pay money as well, and they forfeited some draft picks for illegally filming other people's practices, Don Shula was very critical of that situation. And he said, yeah, it kind of feels like they took the shortcut and cut some corners instead of doing it the right way. That infuriated Bill. And so he decided, F you, I'm going to take your record. And that's been one of the things that I've heard from a lot of people around Bill over the years, is that he really wants that record not only be recognized as the greatest and most winningest coach in the history of the NFL, but also because he was pissed off about what Don Shula had to say about Spygate. And that was a huge motivation for him. So while we can enjoy this wonderful idea of Bill going back to college and being there where his dad did it and the great Beat Duke story, keep in mind the real story when it's all said and done, the words that Bill Belichick probably wants to hear more than anything else, is beat Don.